but it is known there's a giant funding shortfall. This is a letter from the Senate to the Senate Natural Resources in March of 2023. In there, it says GAO estimates the federal agency spend on average $287 million, identifying, cleaning up, and monitoring abandoned hard rock mine sites. Some estimates remediating all abandoned mine sites in the United States could cost as much as $54 billion. At the current rate of funding, it would take nearly 2 centuries to fully address the widespread pressing issues. At least they're aware of it now, right? Doesn't mean checks are coming, but they're aware of it. So that was good to see. One area they look to address, and we've discussed this before, is the Interagency Working Group on Mining Law Reform. Again, the IWG's subgroups for mining operations, access to resources, fiscal issues, which they were referring to funding hard rock programs, tribal and community engagement, which we're seeing a lot of that already moving forward, the permitting procedures, we're seeing a lot of changes on that already. This report never came out yet. I don't know if it's ever truly going to come out. We're seeing a lot of the policies and procedures already being implemented without this report coming out. So I'm not quite sure it's going to be there. But they did note a few key things, the need for recovery of critical minerals from unconventional sources such as mine waste and others, a fully funded hard rock program, and legal protection for Good Samaritans who work and undertake AMO work. And for some states, the Good Samaritan is needed for the state to do the work as well. So going on to private lands, the state takes on the responsibility to clean it up, and something goes wrong 15 years down the later, the state does not want to be held liable to do the cleanup as well. So funding 2018 through 17, I pulled a whole bunch of different sources for this. The EPA and their Superfund site spent almost the most, $2.2 billion. SMCRA, so the Surface Mining Coal Reclamation Act, the coal AML fees, they were dispersed $2.9 billion. Some fortunate states like Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, they are able to actually spend their their coal fees on hard rock AML. It's actually a whole process, has to go through the governor's office to do that. But they are able to do it, and they spend $189 million on it. With that said, the BLM, the whole BLM only had $159 million. The Forest Service had $198. Park Service had $30 million. And NDOM's full, this is all money obligated to the division's AML program, which is the partner agreements, mining claim fees, and surface disturbance, was $6.8 million. That was from 2008 to 2017. In 2018 to 2022, our funding source has gone up. We're now at 6.2. So in that 5-year period, we almost matched what we were able to do in the previous 10 years. And the two key takeaways from there is, one, mining claims did go up significantly. There is an increase there, but our funding for partners went up quite a bit as well. So these are the current partners that we have at the Division of Minerals that we work with for AML. We touch almost every federal program that has anything to do with earth science. The one that the division doesn't work with that is known for science, EPA, NDEP deals with for a lot of their funding sources. But we deal with the BLM primarily, as well as the Forest Service. We do have an agreement with Park Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, Office of Environmental Policy Compliance, I'll go into that a little bit more, DOD and DOE, and then the USGS. So with the BLM, the big things that we deal with them is everyday AML work. They provide a significant amount of funding. They do cultural surveys for us. They do a lot of the NEPA work for us to get the closure work done, as well as they would do planning and inventory. They work with us on a weekly basis nearly. Forest Service is the same as the BLM, just to a smaller scale. Unfortunately, if you have any projects with mineral-related issues on Forest Service, you better get them resolved in the next few months, because anybody that knows anything about minerals on Forest Service lands is retiring in the next 6 to 12 months. So there's going to be a drastic gap there in the Forest Service in Nevada on the HT. Park Service, we do have a small agreement with them. It's on a as-needed basis. So they said, hey, we got a project in Lake Mead we want you guys to work on. Here's the money the NEPA has been done. We'll get it done then. The Army Corps, this has kind of been a dream scenario for our program. We started a contract through the Army Corps in 2014 to take our Microsoft access to the database it is now. And we just got a new contract for up to potentially another 5 years. They didn't have the competition to where they're like, hey, what other things do you want done? Because we may have extra money. So we're getting a dream scenario with them. It's continuing moving forward. And one of the best things is contractor that was doing the work since 2014 and before, they were actually the ones in 2008 timeframe to get us onto GIS. They closed up shop, they retired. But their employees doing the work was able to get with Broadbent, and Broadbent won the contract to the Army Corps, so we actually have the same programmers moving forward, so we don't have to go through that learning curve again, which is really helpful. Department of Defense and Energy, DRUM is defense-related uranium mines. There was uranium mined in Nevada, not much. We're not Utah, we're not Colorado, Arizona, right, New Mexico, but there was some. They were coming through the state this year doing their preliminary investigations, hoping to close whatever is left or remediate whatever's left next year. We're talking 24 sites at max, and I think less than a dozen will actually need to get remediation done on them. The largest one is on Forest Service Apex Mine south of Austin, which the Forest Service actually did a lot of work on it about 8 years ago anyways. OEPC is the biggest wild card for us. OEPC will be overseeing the new National Hard Rock AML program. They will be the ones in control of all the grants and federal funding, not only for states as well, but they'll be controlling potentially BLM, Forest Service, Park Service, DOE funding moving forward at some point. So they're going to be the ones doing policy and procedure for that. And then the USGS with the National AML Database. Sorry, one second. What they are able to do is they're using NDOM's database as a test for the nation before they release it to the rest, which is, like, here's our data, test your database, try to break it, but it's also like, hey, what's going on with this? And actually found some errors in our data set that we're able to address now. So that was nice. But those are the partners in the many facets that we work with them. Funding. So this is pulled from, the table on the left is pulled from the 2013 or 2022 AML report that is, I think, went to the printers this week, showing dedicated revenue to the AML program. And so this is dedicated revenue. Assistance agreements, mining claim fees, disturbance fees, and the total. It is in calendar year as well. The table on the right is recent forecasted federal partner funding in fiscal year. There's a little difference there, so they don't quite match apples to apples. But what you can see is a significant increase in assistance agreements throughout the years coming into recent time, as well as in the last couple of years of mining claims. But for the assistance agreements, you see this last year in 2022, calendar year, we had 424, so just shy of $500,000 from federal partners. That's the highest we've ever had. The BLM told us this year, we want to give you $600K a year. Forest Service says we want to give you $100+ a year. If OEPC does move forward, we could get anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000 depending on the funding source. So we're potentially doubling the amount of federal funding coming from us in 1 year. So this isn't a bad thing. There is ways to get this done. This money is definitely obligated to AML work on those specific lands. Sorry. But we are going to see an increase in potential partner funding. The latest bill from Congress for the funding of the National Hard Rock Program was, again, only unfortunately $5 million, but there was a weird stipulation that said not less than $3 million could go to Western states that do not have oil and gas, orphan well plugging money, or SMACRA money, which leaves us, Arizona, maybe Oregon. That's it. There's not much else. The rest of them have that. So I'm not sure where that stipulation came from, who put that in there. IMCC is looking into that, but that may actually increase our funding source for them as well, even when it's only $5 million a year. But what that tells us, and this is what I talked about earlier today, the reason why this funding is coming towards us because of the proven successes of what we're able to do. People are seeing that we're able to efficiently spend the money, get a lot more work done on the ground, and so it is a, I think, true success story for the agency. Again, those are some of the fun projects we got to work on: Virginia City, Arden, and the Birthday Mine up in McDermott. So the agency impacts, well, budget updates. I can't just receive money. I got to go through a whole process to get the authority to receive the money. and then get the authority to put it in the budget account. But that is just steps, right? It's just a process. It is going to impact the amount of AML work. It's going to increase the work done on the ground, which is going to lead to additional partnerships and new contracts. So we just sent over a contract with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection and their AML program because we already have an existing agreement, cost share agreement with the Forest Service. These are not hard, or these are not easy to come by. They're hard to establish. They take time, they take energy, and there's some cleanup at the Taylor Mill site outside of Ely that they want done. So they're going to pass us the money to pass to NDEP to get that work done. So it's that collaboration between working multiple states. We're going to have to come up with more innovation for the program to get work done faster, easier, more efficiently, right? There are different ways to get work done. Just because we're doing good now doesn't mean we can't improve and get better at getting work done. And then the ultimate goal is I'd really like to be able to say that, maybe by the time I'm done with the Division of Minerals, that it's not going to take 162 years to complete inventory or 200 years to complete closure work, right? To actually be able to reduce the total inventory and reclamation times. But it is exciting to see that the federal partners are truly looking at the agency as a resource that they could use to get additional work done that helps both tell the story for both sides, both state and federal. That's all I have for that.
Rob, one more thing. If you want to add to what you've done to prepare for contracts in advance of the money coming in so that we're not reacting. So what proactive work has the agency done?
Yeah, thank you. I kind of missed a major thing there. So looking at this and looking into the future, we have a lot of contracts that do very similar work. And so working with state purchasing, we decided to come up with a statewide contract. And this will affect the county funding as well, that $400,000. So what we are going to do is we are going to run, and I've been working on the scope of work. Garrett got me edits this week. This week, Sean's getting me some edits. We'll compile it, get a final scope of work. And we're going to have a statewide contract that will go out for bid. And the statewide contract will cover anything and everything you can imagine with AML work, from fencing a site and inventorying it to environmental remediation, wildlife surveys, cultural surveys, anything and everything in between. And what they're going to be able to do is they're going to release this, and companies are going to be able to bid on it to become on the list. So they're then a contractor that is on the list for us to be able to use. And then we go through, or NDEP, or a county, or anybody that is a part of the state or local government will be able to use these contractors, then go in, make the agreement with them on a specific project, or for a 2-year basis, or for a 4-year basis, however you want to set it up, and then be able to get that work done. So it's going to open up the opportunity to get work done, to skip the RFP, well, not skip, but to get through the RFP process a lot faster, to where if the Park Service says, hey, we got this $200,000 project we need to get done in 2 months, we'd be able to actually get it done in that time frame and get a bid in place and actually get that work done on the ground. So we're moving forward with that. And the big thing is Department of Wildlife, if they got money for wildlife mitigation, they'd be able to use this contract. NDP would be able to use it for anything they want to do. So this will hopefully get released in the next month or two. And then we'd use our existing contracts till we exhausted the funding, and then start using this one moving forward.
Oh, Commissioner Helen and I had just one quick question, Rob. So when you mentioned about program innovation for your final slide, and as far as, there's room for improvement or things like that, did you guys go through and find out what did work well for 2023 so you can gain also, tracking what went great so that we can, you do a little better the next time? Is that something that you're referring to?
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier in the day the transition in technology for tablet data gathering. The technology we're using works, but we're finding errors with it. We're finding issues with it. How do we expand on that? Or something we started doing a few years ago, and we have a dream scenario set up with NDF where they literally charge us for the fuel, and that's it, to use a helicopter. to where Sean was using these flights and gathering all this data, but the lapse in being able to get the data back in the database. So how do we innovate and get a better way of capturing it while you're in the air? Things like that. But just looking at what other states are doing or what other federal agencies. So you go into a conference and you see, drones we're using them now, but when they first came out, it was like, well, what could you use those for, right? And so if I was running the environmental program, I would be flying or have a staff that is certified to fly every single project right up front to be able to pull all the data information you have right there. So just keeping our eyes and ears open to new technologies, new ways to get stuff done and test it out. LiDAR is, again, we tested it, it's effective. We just need to get staff members that actually know to efficiently use it because somebody left for another company. But it is just kind of not saying that just because this is the way we did it is the only way. Like, what else can you do? And bringing in new people, like what Carol's been able to do in Southern Nevada and her approach of educating, we've been educating there for 30 years and she's got ways that she's getting additional feedback, additional students, reacting and giving her positive feedback on it. So.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Rob. All right, on to commission business. Is a review of the monthly reports. So there's 3 monthly reports: April, May, and June. At the back of the packet. Does anyone have any comments on the monthly reports? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next up is setting a date for the next commission meeting. Mike, I always need a reminder, but I think it's November, right? Typically. And obviously we'll target earlier in November, I assume. Maybe initially look at the week of the 6th or the week of the 13th. Where's it going to be? It's a good question.
Where did we do November normally? I know there's a thing in the back of the book here.
Seventh selection.
Yep.
15th is the Grand Prix in Vegas, so if we go there,
You'll have seats for us, yeah?
I have seats.
No, I said for us.
I don't know about, I don't-
So normally the November one is actually in Carson. Normally the August is in rural and the February is in Vegas. So we kind of got turned around this last calendar year a little bit on the locations. But again, like, it's not set in stone.
I think we're also looking for suggestions for potential visits as well, field visits.
So I'll throw out that we had initially looked at doing this meeting in Eureka with a field visit of the Ghibellini mine, and Ron Espel has offered to do that. I think that would be a good one because that one's coming up for the record of decision. They've got some novel approaches that they've done for both permitting and land issues and mitigation that would be, I think, beneficial for the commission. We could do it in Eureka. It's been a while since we've been there.
Well, I mean, it's a good suggestion. I think
Win.
hearing around, and others, of course, will be driving to Eureka.
Yeah, so I can check with Ron and see what's available, but be looking at Wednesday, Thursday, because Friday's a holiday, so Wednesday the 8th, Thursday the 9th. First choice, and see what works for him. Either morning tour or afternoon tour, the afternoon tour on the 8th, morning tour on the 9th. And see what
I
works
think we
best
do
for
the,
him.
propose we do the meeting in Eureka as well? or-
Yeah, yeah. It's your call.
I think it would be faster for you to drive from Vegas. So it's about the same time for us to get there.
Unless I pick you up at the airport.
No, we don't. We don't. Or if we do, I haven't been on it yet.
I bet you. Had one in Israel.
Right out, used to be
But
closed down. Right outside of
oh, we can do that.
No, that's I-80 right now. How's that?
right outside that was shut down for a while.
Ruby Hill.
Where is this back from?
Mary's not available that week, but the week before is the first and second.
Let me double check.
Yeah, the second's not good for Bob and Randy. Okay. What about the week of the 15th or 16th?
No, I'm in
No?
Vegas.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that. Yeah, probably then we sort of look at that 8th and 9th time frame at this point.
Or 29, 30.
Oh, what?
29.
Oh,
Is that too?
I am not available those days.
Changed. Yeah, that's.
It is work related why I would not be attending that time frame. That's the CPM class.
Excuse anymore.
all right. Why don't we tentatively look towards the 8th and 9th of November? We can determine if it's better to do the tour in the afternoon of the 8th or the morning of the 9th, maybe based on where we plant the meeting.
Good for me.
All right, so for the, we'll start planning for the 8th and 9th of November between Mike and Rob. And we'll look at putting the test site on the list of visits for the future. Okay, last but not least is comments by the general public. Do we have any further comments from the general public today?
I would like to make one as public. I'd like to thank Mike for everything he's done the last 19 years at the agency, the last nearly 11 years mentoring me as well as other staff members. This was a great place to work and a great place to have a resource to go to at any point in time, and you will be missed at the division. And I do have your cell phone number, just letting you know.
It's, very well said, Rob. And I think
Thanks.
very appropriate coming from you as his successor as well. So I think it comes from all of our commissioners as well, as this will be the last commission meeting before your retirement. And yeah, I think all thanks around
You can come as
for the
far
record.
Like Coiner did.
Yeah, I'll just show up like bad, yeah, like,
Showed up a lot of times.
yeah, like a bad penny at your commission meetings and heckle you and, yeah, at public comment.
Yeah, yeah. It was amazing. Yeah. Just sit here like, okay.
All right, everyone, with that, we are at adjournment officially.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.